What is up, guys? DocRedstone here with another Minecraft video for you guys. And today we have a mod spotlight for a mod that I have personally coded and developed called Dynamic Liquid Tanks. Now this is primarily a mod that you're going to want to use on a more Feed the Beast servers rather than just on a vanilla Minecraft. Just adding a mod, but it does work very well on those as well. But without further ado, here is Dynamic Liquid Tanks. Now before you go ahead and close that video thinking, guys, this is just another tank mod, Zycraft does that, Railcraft does that, so on and so forth. Yes they do. But I would like to ask you, can those mods do this? That's right, this right here, this tree, is a tank. It's a multi-tank, and as you can see, it's currently holding 312 millibuckets of the allowed 312 on this layer. This layer is holding 78 of 220, so on and so forth. Now this is your normal Minecraft tree. You can see if I click on it, it just gives you jungle leaves, and I click right here, you can see it gets the jungle wood. This is just your normal tree, but this is one of the trees that are made with a combination of the cores and the extension. And also you can make a really cool, nice little staircase with your tank here if you want to do that. Now, Dynamic Liquid Tanks is a very simple mod in that it only adds two new blocks to the game. We have the multi-tank core and the multi-tank extension. Now, the tank extension is crafted by 4 pieces of glass, 4 pieces of clay, and a glass pane, whereas the core is crafted by 4 extensions, 4 clay, and 1 piece of iron. Now, when you craft the extension, it actually yields 4 of the block, and when you craft the tank core, it actually yields 2. And if we go ahead and look at NEI here, you can see that if you use the extension, some clay and iron, you'll get 2. And if you use the glass panes, and clay, you'll get 4 of the extensions. And now these tanks are pretty cool. Basically, the foundation of this mod is upon the core, and extension is exactly what it sounds like. It will extend upon that tank, so we'll get into that in just a second. Now, as you can see in front of us, these are the core tanks currently storing various liquids, and you can see when we right click it tells you exactly what liquid is holding. So you can see it's holding 2 millibuckets of the allowed 10,000 millibuckets of water. So that's your water, that's your lava. Now certain fuels or certain liquids actually have a problem rendering with this mod, but they do actually store. So creosote oil, as you can see, does not store visibly like you can see, but if you right click you can see that it does have the 2,000 millibuckets and it's currently storing creosote oil. And if you come over and look at fuel, you'll see the same thing. You can see it's still storing fuel, and it's storing the 2,000 millibuckets of the allowed 10,000 millibuckets. Now it doesn't have a problem with oil or molten redstone, molten glowstone, molten ender, stuff like that, but it does have problems with certain liquids, so just keep that in mind. Now before we go on to this mod, I actually have a little quick setup here that shows the limitations of these tanks. Now, as you can see right here, this is a tank and it's currently a core. It's holding no liquids, and it's 0, so it's actually holding no liquids. Now if you go over here, you can see that this is just a Buildcraft tank, and it's connected to some waterproof pipes, and you can see that it's actually not going into the waterproof pipes to go into the tank, and that's just because these tanks actually have no pressure, which means that unless the liquid is forced upon them, they don't accept it. So with just a normal Buildcraft tank and the waterproof pipes, it's not going to take any of the liquids no matter how hard you try. Now over here we have a thermal expansion tank, and we have some liquid ducts here set to the output mode, and you can see if we actually flip this lever, it goes ahead and it fills up the tank without a problem at all. And that's because that these liquid ducts are actually forcing the liquid into the tank rather than allowing the tank to take the initiative. And you can see that these, your waterproof pipes will work indeed if you just go ahead and you flip the output of the tank, and you can see it flows perfectly fine into the waterproof pipes and then perfectly fine into the tank. And if you do prefer to use the Buildcraft tanks, you will be required to use the liquid ducts, and if we just go ahead and flip it, you can see that it flows through the liquid ducts and into the tank. So basically what it comes down to is until these tanks have their own pressure, the liquid has to be forced upon them in order for them to accept it. Now most of the time this isn't a problem for the fact that the liquids do have to be forced, because here we have just a nice little steam boiler that is making some steam for us, and you can see that this tank currently holds no liquids, and at all. If we go ahead and we flip this, you can see that the steam boiler is indeed distributing its steam into the tank, and you can see that it says it's currently holding liquid steam, and it's holding the 10,000 millibuckets out of the allowed 10,000 millibuckets. And that's because most of these tanks do, or machines that produce liquid, do produce a liquid and force it out into whatever corresponding pipe there is. And just to show that if we were to replace those conduits with just some normal waterproof pipes, it does go ahead and feed perfectly fine into the tank based upon how the steam boiler or whatever device you're using ejects into those pipes. Alright, so now that we know kind of the limitations behind this mod and what it can and cannot do, we're going to go ahead and we're going to show you how the extensions can extend upon the cores. So what we're going to do is we're going to place down a core right here. Once we place down the core, we can fill it with liquids. Now we can take these extensions and place them anywhere, and you can see that now the extension has whatever liquid the core does. And if you right click, you can see that we'll place just a normal core. This normal core right now has a size of 10,000 millibuckets, and the capacity has actually increased to 16,000. And if we go ahead and place another one, you can see that it will increase to 17. Place another one, and you can see it's 19. And we can keep placing as many of these as we want. The size is infinitely expandable. There's no limitations, and you can see we're holding 96 millibuckets in this tank. So that's actually pretty darn cool. Now here you can see we have 3 tanks, and another really cool feature of this mod is that you can increase the size of the tank even further than just placing extensions. You can actually do it upon the use of blocks. And basically the more expensive the block is, the more likely it is to increase the size of the tank. And so if you actually go to your controls here, and you can see that there will be a camouflage all hotkey, which is actually a really cool hotkey. It's be extremely useful. You can set it to whatever you want, you know, C, V, B, so on and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and set mine to V. Now if you hover over any of these extensions or the core itself, and you go ahead and you hold your C key or your V key, whatever it may be that you set it to, and we'll go ahead and note that this has a size of 35,000, that if we hold that key, right click, you can see that now this extension looks like an iron block. And if we click on it, you can see that that measly 35,000 became a 70,000. And if we go ahead and do that again and hold our key and press, you can see that that 70,000 became 105,000. So it's actually just a really cool feature, and you can just go ahead and you can keep resizing this tank, keep going, keep going, keep going, so on and so forth. And you can see that this tank 3x3 has a size of 315,000 millibuckets. Now that was at the cost of 9 iron blocks. You can see that it did take them from my inventory. And the good news is that if you go ahead and you break that block right there, you can see that it will give you that block back. Now we can go ahead and we can do the same thing with stone bricks. You can see the size is 35,000, and we press our key, hold it down, and go ahead, resize it like so. You can see that it actually did not increase in size. And the same thing will happen if we go ahead and place down some cobble. And that is because certain blocks are actually blacklisted blocks, and that means that they do not increase the size at all. Now you can see the stone brick allowed it to stay at a size of 35,000, whereas the cobble actually caused it to decrease in size to only 10,000 millibuckets, which is only 10 buckets. So certain blocks actually have adverse effects, such as cobblestone and dirt and grass. So you want to stay away from those. Certain other blocks, like the stone bricks, are indeed blacklisted, but don't have any negative effects on your tanks, so keep that in mind. So now, in building with these tanks, there's actually a few rules you're going to have to follow. So when you place down a tank, and say you place some liquid in it, just like some water, and we go ahead and we place an extension right here, you can see the extension is not directly connecting to the tank, and so it's not going to count as an extension to the tank. Now if we place an extension right here, you can see that it did extend and the size is 16, but this guy hasn't quite yet changed, and it's because that these tick randomly, very similar to a forestry alveary, and so occasionally they'll tick and they'll go ahead and they'll wait, they'll tick. When they tick, they'll get the block next to them, they'll get its capacity, and it will do the whole calculation. And as you can see right there, it just did it, and you can see that the size actually didn't increase because there's only 2 blocks, but if we were to add another block, the size would increase. Now, if you do end up doing something like this, and we place a block next to it, and you can see, and you don't want to wait for it to update because it just looks ugly for that period of time, you can just break it and replace it, and it will instantly update. Now, if we want to make this another level, we can't simply just place these extensions up on top and have the core down here. That's not how the mod works. You can see no matter how many times I click, it's not going to do anything. And if we go ahead and try to fill this up, it doesn't fill into the upper tank. And that's because per layer, there's actually going to need a core. So for every layer of your tank, you're going to need 1 core. And that core can be anywhere. It can be touching another core. It can be touching an extension. So we're just going to have this core right here touch another extension, and we're just going to place this like so. And if we go ahead now and continue, you'll see that it continues to fill the block above. And if we go ahead and extract, it extracts from the block above first before extracting from the block below. And so basically with this limitation though, we can make the size of these tanks any size we want. We can make them look however we want, to kind of do the staircase design that I had before, and you can see that it starts extracting the liquid. So just remember that per layer you have to have at least 1 core, and the core of the layer below has to touch at least one of the blocks from the next layer. Now, right when you think that this mod is pretty much as awesome as it's going to get, you'll see that there is indeed one more feature. And what we have here is we have a core, and this core is containing lava. It doesn't matter how much it contains. It can contain 0.0001 millibuckets. It can contain 1/1000th of a millibucket, as long as it contains a little amount of that liquid though. And as you can see underneath, we have all these blocks, and they're powered by these redstone blocks. Now these blocks, depending on what liquids they have in them, have a special effect when powered by redstone. So here we have some lava, and these tanks below are filled with lava. Now the extensions don't work. They each have to be core. So underneath this lava block's another core, underneath this lava block's a core, underneath this lava block's a core. So all of the blocks have to be core blocks, and they have to be filled with at least 1 bucket of the liquid. However, if I go ahead and you change your game mode to 0, so I am entirely vulnerable, and you can see that normally one would not simply sprint into lava. And I do take a little damage at first, but you can see that damage is quickly restored, and this little regeneration effect, and you can see that I am resisting the fire. And as long as I keep walking on this, I'm going to maintain a potion effect of fire resistance and regeneration. And as an alternative, you actually get a slowness effect, but that's not terrible. And so as soon as I get out of there, you can see that I lose the fire resistance and the regeneration, and I do take a little bit of burn damage. And we'll just run into this lava or water that we have over here. But as you can see, so basically, if you have your core and change our game mode back to 1, and you have lava in the core, and you power that core block and walk over it, it's going to give you regeneration. It's going to give you fire resistance, and it's going to give you a slowness effect. So this way you can actually make the entrance to your base lava, and most people would see this and be like, oh, I'm not going to walk into that. But you, knowing that your floor is made of these special tanks, can just go ahead and walk right on in and not worry about it at all, and just pop out wherever. Now, one thing to note is that as soon as you start walking on these, you can see that you get the effects. But if you stop walking on them, the effects, oh no, the effects stay. So as long as you're standing on one of these blocks, as long as you're touching it, you're going to be given this effect. So you can see that's going to give you a slowness 2, a regeneration 2, and a fire resistance 2. And it's just going to give that to you as long as you're interacting or touching one of these blocks. So that's actually pretty cool. Now for water, it's a bit different. As you can see, these blocks down here, they're all core blocks, and they're filled with water. And if I go ahead and I just stand here in the water, you can see that I actually get the effect water breathing too. And you can see that down here in the corner, my bubbles, my air bubbles aren't decreasing at all. So if you actually take one of these cores with you when you want to do some mining at the bottom of a lake, go down there, place down the core, fill it with a bucket of water, and just stand on it while you do whatever you want. You will never drown, and as soon as you get out of that water, whatever, you can see the effect starts to dissipate until it's no longer existent. Now, even though these tanks are compatible with all sorts of liquids, such as steam and the molten ender and the molten glowstone, the molten redstone, fuel, so on and so forth, currently only lava and water have these effects. So if I would change my game mode back to 1, get a lever, and power this tank right here, it would not, there's absolutely no effect that's given to me by walking on these. And later on, I assume that that feature will be added, but as it stands right now, it's only water and lava. So that's it for right now. As you can see, these are another set of the trees that is a nice demonstration. If we go ahead and right click, you can see that this each layer has its own core, and you can see you can right click on it and see how much each layer has stored in it. And so this is kind of just like a birch tree that looks like it, and this is the jungle tree. And it's cool too, because if you set the time to night, where it's nighttime, apparently it's night enough. Let's see, make it a bit darker. There we go. You can see that these trees actually do emit light if the liquid inside of them would normally emit light. So you can have some really cool glowing trees if you want to. And another nice effect, we'll go over here. We'll take some of this lava. Oops, gotta actually get a lava bucket because I'm in creative. And if we go ahead and we take our core right here, we go out here where it's dark, we place down the core, and we get whatever block. And since we don't actually care about the negative effects, the smallest size a tank, any tank can be, is 10. And so if we go ahead and we apply the cobble, it doesn't get any smaller than 10. We store some lava in there. You can see that even though this looks like a piece of cobble, it's still the core, and it's still holding lava. And so you have your little floor right here per se, and you can see that even though this looks like cobble, you walk over it normally like a normal piece of cobble, it emits a light level and it emits light around it, so you can do some really cool hidden lighting with this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this mod spotlight. There are some really cool things that you can do with this dynamic tanks mod. I especially like the features that the cores have when they're powered and give you certain potion effects and whatnot. But the very cool hidden tanks you can do with this is unbelievable. The combinations of tanks you can do with this is unbelievable. This does look exactly like any sort of normal jungle tree, but you can see that it clearly stores lava. And so anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this spotlight. Once again, like always, this has been DocRedstone. If you like this video, please rate, comment, and subscribe, and check out the mod in the description below. Thanks everybody for watching. Peace out.